Medicine Hat, Alberta, a peaceful Canadian town where nothing out of the ordinary usually happens. That changed on April 23, 2006. A 6-year-old boy wandered next door hoping to play with his friend, 8-year-old Jacob Richardson. But when no one answered the door, he peeked through the basement window and froze. Inside, he saw 2 bodies. Moments later, police arrived to find a scene that would shake the community to its core. A family of 3 brutally murdered and their 12-year-old daughter, Jasmine, missing. At first, everyone thought she'd been kidnapped, but the truth behind that basement door was darker than anyone could have imagined. Jasmine Richardson was 12 years old, living with her parents, Mark and Deborah, and her little brother Jacob. Her parents had fought their way out of substance abuse years earlier, building a quiet, stable life. Mark worked as an instrumentation technician, and Deborah stayed home to raise their kids. Jasmine, though, was changing. She became drawn to goth culture, dark aesthetics, and online communities that romanticized danger. She explored Wicca, fantasy, and even admired serial killers, particularly Jeffrey Dahmer. Despite her age, Jasmine looked older. People said she could pass for 16. That's when 23-year-old Jeremy Steinke entered the picture. Unemployed, isolated, and immersed in dark fantasies, Jeremy claimed to be a 300-year-old werewolf who loved the taste of blood. His online profile listed his interests as pain and razor blades. He had a rough past: an alcoholic mother, violent stepfathers, severe bullying, and likely fetal alcohol syndrome. His world revolved around drugs, escapism, and violence. When Jasmine met him, either online or at a punk concert, it was like lighting a fuse. She was young and impressionable. He was delusional and obsessive. Together they built a fantasy that blurred every line between love and destruction. When Jasmine's parents discovered the relationship, they were horrified. Their 12-year-old daughter was secretly seeing a 23-year-old man. They confiscated her computer, grounded her, and forbade her from seeing him again. But Jasmine found ways to sneak out and meet him. Online, their messages grew darker. She began venting her anger, calling her parents controlling. And then one night, a message appeared that changed everything. Jasmine wrote, "I have this plan. It begins with me killing them and ends with me living with you." Jeremy replied, "I love your plan, but we need to get a little more creative with details and stuff." That single exchange marked the moment fantasy turned into a murder plot. Even as things escalated, most people didn't realize how bad it was getting. Friends thought Jasmine's online messages were just goth talk. They laughed off her dark drawings, like the hand-drawn comic she made at school, where a girl burned her family alive through the sprinkler system. Online, Jasmine and Jeremy posted photos and quotes about death, violence, and eternal love. They often referenced the movie Natural Born Killers, a cult film about a couple who go on a killing spree. Meanwhile, Jasmine's parents tightened the rules, trying to protect her. But the more they tried to control her, the more defiant she became. In her eyes, they weren't saving her. They were standing in her way. On the night of April 22nd, 2006, Jeremy and his friends watched Natural Born Killers. He drank heavily: beer, wine, vodka, snorted cocaine, popped ecstasy, and pulled on his killer outfit: a ski mask, arm fishnets, a leather wristband, a bandana, and thick eyeliner. He armed himself with 2 knives and drove to the Richardson home. Inside, the family was asleep. Deborah heard a noise and went downstairs to check. When she turned on the basement light, Jeremy lunged, stabbing her 12 times. Mark rushed down, armed with only a screwdriver. A violent struggle broke out. Mark almost overpowered Jeremy before collapsing from 24 stab wounds. His last words, "Why?" Jeremy answered, "It's what your daughter wanted." Upstairs, Jasmine was with Jacob. The 8-year-old begged for his life, confused and terrified. He was later found in his bed, throat cut, multiple stab wounds, a toy lightsaber nearby as if he'd tried to defend himself. Jasmine and Jeremy fled into the night. When police first arrived, they assumed Jasmine had been kidnapped. Her photo was on the wall, a smiling preteen who seemed innocent. But then they found the drawings, the online chats, and messages that painted a different story. Friends confirmed Jasmine had often talked about killing her family. The digital evidence matched the tone and words found in the crime scene clues. Suddenly, the missing girl wasn't a victim. She was part of it. The next day, police tracked the pair down to a high school parking lot in Leader, Saskatchewan, about 100 miles away. They were laughing, joking, acting as if nothing had happened. Both were arrested and charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder. While in custody, Jeremy was tricked by an undercover officer posing as a fellow inmate. Believing he'd made a new friend, Jeremy confessed. He said killing the Richardsons was a symbol of his true love for Jasmine. Then, in a bizarre twist, Jeremy proposed to Jasmine through a jailhouse letter. Their dark fantasy lived on, even behind bars. Both were found guilty on all counts. Under Canadian law, Jasmine's age protected her from an adult sentence. She was given the maximum, 10 years total, including time in a mental health facility and probation.
The now 16-year-old girl is currently in closed custody at the Alberta Hospital in Edmonton. In order to begin her reintegration, her treatment team and her lawyers say she needs more exposure to the outside world.
We have to appreciate, of course, that she's been in custody for 4 years, and it's a big 4 years, given that she's now 16. And so certainly there have been a number of changes, and as the treatment team indicated, she's not in a normal situation, and so she's a very different person now than she was then.
No, she'll be out in the community one day, that's inevitable, and what kind of person is she going to be, what kind of adult is she going to be? So those are the types of questions I have daily, and especially when there's an annual review.
If her treatment team decides to plan any trips off of the Alberta Hospital facility, they will need to submit those plans in detail to the Solicitor General, who will then approve the plans, deny the plans, or make amendments to them to assure that there is no risk to the community.
She served her full term and was fully released in 2016, free and unrestricted. Jeremy received 3 life sentences to be served concurrently, with parole eligibility in 2033. Not bad, considering he claimed to be 300 years old. A friend who helped them flee, Casey Lancaster, was sentenced to 1 year of house arrest. Jasmine was already out of the hospital, reportedly expressing remorse. She reintegrated quietly into society under a new identity.